Hey folks, welcome to the Flipside. I'm Sam.
I'm JT.
And this right here is our top 5 solo or games that have a solo mode in them. I have traditionally not been a solo gamer, but I have recently seen the light.
He's learning.
I'm learning. I'm still a solo baby. I still prefer to play games, generally speaking, with other people.
Sure, absolutely.
Maybe that means I don't like myself very much.
Absolutely. But if I want to sit down and crunch out a game by myself, I'm totally good with that.
Yeah, I can be as well. It's a great way to teach yourself how to play a game, and that's pretty much where I'm at with it. I usually don't do it for fun, but I do it to teach myself how to play a game, and I've found that is a much more fun way for me to learn how to play a game than just reading a rule book.
Or if you have somebody that's having a hard time learning a game, play the solo mode with them next to you, and they'll learn it a lot quicker.
Good idea. Yep. Good idea. All right. Well, my average weight for this list was a 2.48. What was your average weight?
3.22.
He likes that heavy stuff, y'all. My heaviest game was lower than your average, which was 3.07. And my lightest game was a whopping 1.9.
Yep. My lowest was a 2.19. We've already had that. We've already had most of my low games, I think.
So this is going to be the heavies.
The lowest of this group is 2.86.
Let's get to it. This is our top 5 solo only or games that have solo modes in them. Let's hit it. All right, now, my number 5 is a new game. And the one time that I've played it solo, I didn't get one aspect of it correctly, which is thrown off how I played it, but it didn't affect it. I know what I did wrong, and I know that I probably would have lost, but I still really enjoyed the solo mode of it because it was super simple. No accounting at all. You had to count up points at the end of the game for them, but that's it.
Sure.
Pretty much, you draft the cards that you want, and then they get whatever's left. Comic Hunters is my number 5.
Gotcha.
Really enjoyed this solo mode. Really enjoyed it a lot. Mainly because it did not feel like I was playing a solo mode.
Sure.
Just didn't.
How did it score? Well, you said you won. You weren't sure.
I should not have won.
If you played again. Yeah, but that's okay.
I should not have won. I did not do poorly. I still scored over 100 points, which is decent.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't have beat you.
Pretty good. I don't remember how many points you make in that game typically, but I have played it once solo and I enjoyed it. It makes it very easy.
Yep.
I don't remember how it scored out. I guess the only thing in this solo mode like that, and I didn't put this on my list because I don't know enough about the solo mode, is whether or not it stays competitive. Because I don't want to play a solo mode where I beat it by 30% every time or lose by 30% every time.
Yeah.
I want it to be competitive, so but I have to push.
Well, I think with this one, what happens is that, like I said, whenever you finish drafting your cards,
they get
whatever's left. Now, most of the time, like for example, with the store, you draw 3 cards, you choose 2, and they get 1.
Right.
And you do that twice. Yep. And then that's it for the store.
I do remember playing it. I just don't remember how it scored out.
I see what you're saying. Well, the one I think where they're going to get the most cards is at the auction. The auction is where I think they should get the most cards. And that's where you really have to be careful because they're still going to score their deck because they're going to have a deck of cards at the end of the game.
Right.
Whenever they get a card, you're keeping track of all of the other things and the highlights down at the bottom immediately. So it's like if it goes into their deck, they score those highlights.
They score the highlight.
And so that's an engine that you do have to keep up with based on what you do, which I thought was cool because I was afraid
that makes sense.
that those 3 highlights would be where I can just wallop, but I couldn't. Like I've said before, it really mirrors the multiplayer version of the game, which is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, it lets you do your piece.
Yep, it lets you do what you want to do with resistance.
Yep.
And that's what I liked about it. So that's my number 5, Comic Hunters.
Nice. My number 5 is a fantastic game. Top-notch game from Stronghold Games and Fricks Games called Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. In Ares Expedition, the coolest thing about this solo mode, because I love tableau builders anyways, and Terraforming Mars is a tableau builder where you're building your businesses out and your resource, collect or generation out and all of those kind of things.
Right.
Terraforming Ares Expedition adds from Terraforming Mars. It kind of shrinks what you're doing on the board. It shrinks significantly what you're doing on the board. But it adds the 5-card action system like in Race for the Galaxy. You're doing development or research or production or whatever else. So you're going to pick one of those cards and then you're going to flip over one card for them. Mm-hmm. The trick is you only get to go through their deck, which is 5 cards, 5 times. So you have 25 turns to terraform Mars. That's all that matters. You either win by terraforming in 25 turns or you lose. Talk about, like, this isn't the long game where this isn't the long game where somebody's like, oh yeah, I could just keep building up this giant tableau forever. No, you got 25 turns to get all that oxygen up, all that heat up, all the oceans flipped, or you lose. Yep. And it puts a ton of pressure on. It makes every decision very impactful. This is a really, really good solo mode for anybody that loves terraforming Mars, for anybody that loves terraforming Mars, for anybody that loves engine building. This is a fantastic solo mode.
Cool. All right, my number 4. You're playing against an AI. And that AI is going to take a lot of the stuff that you want. You have to be very on your toes in Tenpenny Parks. But Tenpenny Parks, again, is a great game where you're building out your amusement park.
Yep.
And trying to make all of these different attractions using these different shaped polyomino tiles. Polyomino style, I guess.
Sure.
They're not actual, like, just L's or squigglies.
They are mostly, aren't they?
They have different shapes depending on what the some of them are like a bigger square-ish
thing sticking out.
Yeah,
I still think that means they're polyomino.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I get
fair.
it. I think Becky is her name.
Okay.
And she's the AI. She's very good at what she does. It's a very challenging AI that resists and takes some of the stuff that you're probably going to want, so you have to rethink. And just like you would in a normal game, and I really enjoyed this one. Vincent Dutrait artwork, which is a huge plus for me anyway. Just games that look good are more fun to play, and that's exactly where Tenpenny Parks is. And I really enjoyed the solo mode for this one. So that's why it is my number 4, Tenpenny Parks.
Nice. You always say Vincent Dutrait artwork is a huge plus for you.
It is.
Artwork in general is a huge plus for me, too.
Yes. Has to be.
It has to be.
Has to be.
All right. My number 4 is a big, chunky game. I think they consider this the chunkiest one on the list. Yeah, okay. 4.38. This is from Josh and Adam Carlson of Chip Theory Games.
I know what this one
Yeah,
is.
I know. Cloudspire.
Cloudspire.
In Cloudspire,
it's also physically heavy.
It is physically heavy. But in Cloudspire, you are creating these maps. You're basically islands in the sky, and you're fighting over these islands in the sky. You're different factions that are doing so. But it's a MOBA-style game where you're going to set up your base on one side, and the enemy's going to set up their base on the other side, or there can be multiples. And then your troops are going to follow a programmed lane across that. So once you've set them up in their order and which troops you want and everything else, your main characters, you can move them around and do special things with them. But the rest of your troops are just going to walk a procedural line across the board until they're dead. And theirs are going to do the same, very MOBA style in that. It's a really beautiful game for one. There's a ton of solo content in this. There's a ton of different factions to play. In fact, I looked the core game, which I have all the expansions and stuff like that, and the multiple different types. But the core game itself, the solo book, is 104 pages of scenarios.
Of scenarios.
Of scenarios.
Okay. I thought that was like
of scenarios.
rules.
No. And then every faction you get comes with their storyline of solo, because all of those solo games are in a storyline, or kind of in a progression. So every new faction you get, they have their own solo ones, and then there's some books that meld in solo fights and cooperative fights as well, between old and new factions. So, but there's just a ton of solo content in this one. One, you can really sit down. You could play out a mission, lose or win. You could literally set the thing back up and do the same one over again to see if you can do better. There's just so many possibilities. This game is amazing, but it's a lot to grok. So.
My number 3 is another game that I just got around to playing here recently. JT and I played it at his house a couple days ago as well, and I really enjoyed the solo mode. Now, this solo mode, you play actually 2 players. You play 2 characters, rather, but you're making all of the decisions, and you do have to keep track of who's going to go first on this turn, and it does alternate. So it's not like you just have free reign and you just have 2 people that you can do whenever you want. There is a little bit more structure to it than that. This one's called Star Wars: The Clone Wars. It's a pandemic version game. Now, the first villain that you have to play against, they should have probably just named Ventress the Doormat, because you walk all over her. It's not hard at all. But I think we found that the other villains...
Darth Maul was pretty bad.
Darth Maul. We won by the skin of our chinny chin chin. Literally, I think we deduced that the game would have won on the next. Yeah,
the game would have won on the next turn regardless. At the end of my turn, the game was winning regardless. No matter what we did.
We just pulled out the win, and it was a nail biter.
It was good.
The entire time. It was very good. It uses the pandemic system with a good number of different twists and caveats in it from the pandemic system. It's not just a reskinning.
I like the mobility of this game. I like how much, in that game in particular that we just played, was how much we both had to
move around.
We were zipping around everywhere doing stuff, and I really like the mobility. Pandemics have always kind of had a lot of mobility anyways, but I really like
the use of the card system here, where you didn't have to use
really
cards
cool
for everything. You just tapped it.
Yep, that's really cool as well. And the cards that you had in your hand was also your life. So
yep,
that was really good.
Really enjoyed this one a lot, and it's one of those. This is actually, I think this top 5 are literally games that I would be absolutely comfortable with pulling them out just to play and have fun.
Yeah,
and they're no longer games that I'm just trying to learn how to play. These are games that I think I want to just have fun, and I don't have anybody else around.
This was definitely one you could put on the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was your number 5?
My number 5.
That was your number 4, but
my number 5 was Comic Hunters. Number 4 was Tenpenny Parks. My number 3.
Yep.
Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Pretty good one. Well, my number 3, funny enough, is on my table right now, half set up. And it is the reason why I suggested this list. But my number 3 is Kanban EV. And it, like I said, it is partially set up on my table right now, getting ready to go from Vital Lacerda, Eagle Griffin Games. It's a 4.3.
Oh, gosh.
The really cool thing about the AI in this one, and I really like the different mechanisms in these solo games anyways. I'll tell you, this one right here, you're going to burn your brain learning how the AI works, and it's the truth. It's just as hard to learn how the AI works in this game as it is to learn how to play the game. That will put some people off. I understand that.
You.
But in this game, you have 2 AI characters that are walking the factory floor with you and working with you. And one of them is Mr. Turchi, and the other one is Mr. Lacerda. I don't know why I forgot that. But that's what they named them. They're a little white meeple and a little black meeple, and they run up and down, and they take up those worker placement spots. The cool thing about in Kanban is because all of the action spots, there's only like 5 of them, and each of them have a couple different spots in them. But when it goes to the next round, whoever's on the very top of the factory floor basically gets to reset to a different location first. So that means those 2 meeples plus Sandra are out there in your way. Sandra's your boss of all of you. But they're all in your way if you're on top, or maybe they're moving first or whatever else. So there's this really crazy jockeying of trying to get the spot that you want to work in for the day. Normally you play Kanban, you play through so many rounds, so many weeks, so many weekly meetings before you win or lose and get your points. In this game, you do the same thing, except for if at any weekly meeting, because every time Sandra goes through all the departments and gets to the bottom, you have a weekly meeting. At any weekly meeting, if you have 0 points or negative points, you get fired. It's game over. That could be week 1, and actually I've lost week 1 a couple of times. I've lost week 2 a couple of times, or at least once, and then I've lost. But if you don't have enough points to sustain, you just get fired. They play the rest of the single-player game without you. No,
I don't.
It's so good.
I don't want to play any game where I can get fired.
You can get fired anytime during this game. You can't even make it to the end of the game.
I was
if you're not
thinking
careful.
as you were explaining, this sounds like work.
It's so good.
This sounds like, how does it feel to be micromanaged, the board game?
Yeah, the AI isn't. I mean, I might make the AI out to be a little bit more difficult than it is, but I don't want you to go in and try to play this game and then say, well, JT said this AI is easy. It is not.
I don't want you to try to go in and play this solo game. That's where I'm at.
It's super fun solo.
Please go have a good life. Have fun doing something else.
It is very fun solo. Like I said, I am willingly have it on my table right now to play it solo.
That's called
willingly.
That's called cruel and unusual punishment.
All right, my number 3, Kanban EV.
All right, my number 2 is a game where you are trying to forge different pieces of armor and shields and weaponry. This is called Forges of Ravenshire. This is also a new game to my collection, and it's one that has already steadfastly gained a position in my possession for a very long time. The AI is basically run by a deck of cards that basically tell you what number die it's going to place out into the resource management, and based upon what's out there, what number it's going to bring back. It generates its own points, basically coins, throughout the course of the game, and it also generates other, basically it's just getting resources and points throughout the course of the game, and you're going to be using those whenever it gets a certain number of the resources are just cubes.
No.
They're not the actual resources. So if you get 3 wood, you're just going to get 3 cubes that are out here. And once you have 13 cubes, if you're playing easy mode, then it uses those 13 cubes to build one of the contracts that are available. Yep. What contract it's going to is also determined by, at the beginning of the game, it's randomly determined what they're going to be looking for.
Nice.
What their priority is.
Yep, what their priority
for building.
Is.
And so there is very little accounting that's going on. Mainly, you're just doing your turn. And then once you put your thing out there, they do their thing. Then you do your thing, and you just go through the entire thing. They only take turns during the gathering phase. They do not do anything during the production phase.
So then you get to run your whole production phase.
Then you get to run your
I really like this game.
Absolutely.
Once I can find a Kickstarter copy of it, I'm going to pick it up. But.
Yeah, well,
yep.
We should.
It's a good one.
It's such a fun game, and it's such a fun solo mode.
Right on. Well, my number 2 is quickly becoming one of my favorites for sure. This is from CD Projekt Red, called The Witcher Old World. Talk about another game that puts a time constraint on you to get done what you need to get done. Now, in The Witcher, it's an open world game where you start out with a witcher or a wizard or a mage if you're playing with the mages with very minimal skills, and your job is to go from town to town and place to place. You get event cards that you deal with. You train up your skills. You basically go out. You're going to fight monsters. And you have to get trophies, either getting trophies by killing monsters or getting trophies by basically reaching the pinnacle in your skills or your different skills. But in the solo mode, you're the only Witcher on the board, which means you don't get truthfully, the only real interaction you have with another Witcher is if they go and they beat a monster in front of you, or if you guys have a bar fight, right? Yeah. So it's not that much different as far as that goes. But you basically only get a certain amount of turns, and instead of drawing the normal Witcher game, you start out with 3 level 1 monsters, and then everybody goes around and fights, and when somebody kills a level 1, a level 2 comes out, and so on and so forth. In this game, you start out in the solo mode, you start out with a level 1, a level 2, a level 3, and you start out with a random skill card, so it may say that your strength needs to be maxed, and you have to get those 4 trophies, but you have to do that between 6 and 13 turns. So it puts this constraint on you. You have to kill 3 consecutively tougher monsters and get the specific skill that's pulled randomly out of the bag. So it might not even be the skill that you like a lot or you focus on normally. And it puts those constraints on you to see if you can get them done.
That's cool.
And I really like that. It gives you that adventure, but it gives you it's tight and tactical.
Yeah, that's a fun game.
Yep.
All right, my number 1. It's our only crossover, apparently. It was his number 6.
For sure.
It's my number 1. As far as solo mode games are concerned, this is the one that is a solo only game on my entire list.
Yeah, this is the best solo only game I've ever played.
And that is exactly the reason why it's my number 1. I don't usually like solo mode games. I would rather prefer to play with other people.
You'll never play solitaire again, will you? You'll be playing solid Final Girl.
Yeah, solid Final Girl, man. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. No reason to play. It's such a thematic experience. And that's something that I never thought would be possible with a solo mode game, because most of the time, my experience, my brushing with solo mode games, it's very procedural, very mechanical about what you had to do. This is the first time, while it still is mechanical, while it still is procedural, it still has that thematic feel to it that I really enjoy. And that theme does carry over with each of the different combinations that are in the game. My introduction to the game was Mrs. Claus versus Krampus. Such a great game. Vincent Dutrait's artwork. You do need the core game to play it, but
I've only played that scenario once, and I got smashed by the Yeti of all things. It
wasn't Did you?
Yeah, it wasn't Krampus. It was the Yeti that ended up wiping me out.
I think I won.
Yeah, I think you might have. But I lost that one so bad.
Love this game so much. Such a great game. It's my number 1. It's our only crossover, Final Girl.
All right, you talked me into it. As soon as I'm done with Kanban, I'm playing Final Girl. Couple little sessions.
I can't tell you, man, how close I was to back in Season 3. I just couldn't financially pull the trigger. Because I wanted to get everything. I didn't want just Season 3.
We know where it's
I wanted 1, 2, and 3. And that's the only reason I did, because I know where I can go get it.
All you have to do, just buy yourself a core box, and then anytime you want to borrow one of the things, then you can just borrow the thing.
I got you. That's what I'm going to do, probably.
All right. That's the cheapest way to play Final Girl, trust me. All right, my number 1, unfortunately, is fairly low-hanging fruit for me, and I apologize. My number 1 is a game that I'll play with people, I'll play solo, I'll play anytime, but I love this game, and absolutely fun to play solo, and that's Too Many Bones.
I knew it.
Chip Theory Games. Not only that, but when you play solo, you can play with 2 gear locks, and you're technically just playing a multiplayer game by yourself. Or you can play solo with 1 gear lock, and every gear lock has a basically a solo difficulty and a multiplayer difficulty. Because some of them are much more difficult in one of those scenarios.
A gear lock is a character, by the way.
Gear locks are the characters. You're taking one of these gear locks, you're taking a character, and you're going out to fight a tyrant and all of his little baddies. But each one of the gear locks actually has a solo or a cooperative difficulty level, because you know, some need the pressure taken off of them so they can do work and things like that.
Yep.
But also, if you play solo with 1 gear lock, there's a different encounter deck as well, completely different encounter deck that works for solo characters, so that they're not overwhelmed by 800,000 people at once. So it works really well solo. In fact, I think we talked about this maybe months and months ago, but I started and I haven't finished it because it's a lot, but I don't know, I'm probably 10 games into it, but I started a list of the 18 gear locks, because I think there's 18 that I have, and I think there's 23 tyrants. Don't correct me if I'm wrong. It's somewhere around 23 tyrants. But basically, I just paired them up, and win or lose. I'm trying to beat all of the tyrants with the gear locks before all of my gear locks lose. And I've already lost like 2 or 3. I think I've lost 3 gear locks so far. But yeah, it's a really cool game. I love this game, and I love playing it solo. It's really fun to just puzzle out, and play with these characters. So
understood.
That's my number 1.
That's cool. I knew that was going to be on there. I questioned whether it was going to be when you had that other Chip Theory game on there, but yeah,
I didn't want to put all the Chip Theory games on there. I could probably do that as well, but just Shem Phillips and Chip Theory games, and I could just. No, but all of those solo modes are so good.
Yep. I agree. I really was really happy with the list I came up with, and I'm frankly, all the ones that I played that didn't make the list, they're all fun.
I have solo games. I have solo experiences, solo modes that I've played that I'll never play again. I don't know if I could tell you which ones right now.
Sure.
But I definitely have some that have been on my solo mode list and been kicked off.
Yeah. Yep. So. Well, that's that. That's our top 5. Solo only or games with solo mode games. Let us know what we did wrong.
Put the ones in the comments that you know that we missed. I know there's lots of them.
Yep.
There's lots of different solo modes out there.
Absolutely.
Put down in there, you know, the best kind of solo modes. Do you like endgame scoring? Do you like you got to beat a number? You got to, I mean, what kind of scoring do you like at the end? What kind of objectives do you like in solo modes? Because
that's cool.
Any of that kind of stuff's really cool to listen to. So
let us know what you think. We read it all, and we'll respond to it. Thanks for joining us. Give us a like and subscribe if you are so inclined. Do it even if you're not.
Do it no matter what.
It'll help us. Anyway, we'll see you guys and gals on the flip side. Take care.
We'll see you later.